This is your boy, Beck Lover, and you're here for another episode of Interesting Times on the Beck Lover podcast, where you might just learn a thing or two about life. There's so much going on in the world. There's so many interesting stories. Why even watch movies? Why even read books about fiction when reality, the world that we live in, can be so much stranger than fiction? Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I gather all the interesting news, stories, funny, tragic, sad, whatever is interesting in this world that we live in. I do all the homework for you. I get you up to speed. I make sure you know what you need to know about the world that we live in. And I have an amazing episode today. There's all types of crazy things that have happened in the last few weeks. And you're going to really enjoy this episode. So make sure you smash that subscribe button, leave a comment. Even if it's a bad one, it helps me. Leave something, for God's sake. I'm over here. You're watching me for free. Support the cause. This is your boy, Beck Lover. And you're watching Interesting Times. Now, last night, I was a guest on the Godfree, In Godfree We Trust podcast. He's one of the biggest comedians in the world right now. And we had a crazy podcast that's dropping this Saturday. You can go to YouTube or any podcast platform and check out In Godfree We Trust. I also met one of the most famous Jamaicans since Bob Marley, Elliot. His name is Dale Elliott Jr. He's a very big influencer. He's hilarious. And we had an episode about what happens when a Nigerian, Godfree, a Jamaican, Dale Elliott, and an Albanian, Beck Lover, and our boy Dante, an African-American, get together and talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. A lot of cultural jokes. If you're into that type of stuff, you got to check out this episode and make sure you stay tuned to the Beck Lover podcast. I want to give you a little taste of what the mood was like before we actually started filming this podcast. We started at like 10 p.m. last night, and we didn't get out of there till like 3 in the morning. We were dying laughing the entire time. And I'm going to finish this episode up real quick because I'm going to go meet up with Dale again. So make sure you follow my friends. They're hilarious. Check out this footage of us right before we started filming.
Podcast start right now.
What happens when Jamaicans, Albanians, Nigerians, and Antiguans unite?
Jesus Christ.
A revolution in this moment.
This is going to be hilarious. So, people,
Here we go.
tune in to the podcast here tonight.
It's starting
On
right
Godfrey,
Ask him.
podcast start right now.
What happens when Jamaicans,
Will you still send money go back to Jamaica?
This guy's hilarious.
Yes. Why?
Got
I want to say, unfortunately. Yeah, man, we still have to send money go back to Jamaica, man.
Oh, this guy, show him some love.
You said comedy.
I had a blast with him. But let's get into the stories that are interesting indeed. And there's my man, Godfree. This is his Instagram handle, Godfree Comic. That's God, F-R-E-Y, Comic. And you can check out all his content. I'm sure you've seen him. He has billions of views. He's been on shows like The Breakfast Club. And I'm glad to call him a brother now. So here we go. A man in New Zealand was fined for trying to body slam an orca. Yes, I just said it. This is reported by Yahoo News. Stupid behavior, New Zealand man fined for trying to body slam an orca. According to New Zealand Department of Conservation, a man faces fines after video surfaced on social media a few months ago of someone attempting to body slam a killer whale. I touched it, the man said in the video, followed by cheers and laughter. This is after he jumps off the boat and hits a killer whale. Hey, stupid guy. They're called killer whales for a reason. Have you not seen what happened in SeaWorld back in the past where these killer whales killed the trainers that were there? Like, you must be a complete moron. And only a $600 fine. This guy should have been hit with like a $30,000 fine. And then we would have seen him get body slammed by the government. Fortunately, the horrible war going on in the Middle East is still raging on in the Gaza. Rafah has been invaded by Israel. Reuters reports Israeli forces moved deeper into Rafah, into the Battle of Night. Israel's assault on Rafah on Gaza southern edge has set hundreds of thousands of people fleeing what had been a refuge for half of the enclave's 2.3 million people. It has also cut off the main access routes for aid into Gaza, drawing international fears of mass casualties and famine. Israel says it has no choice but to attack the city to its root, to root out the last battalions of Hamas fighters it believes are sheltering there. Its troops have been slowly moving into the eastern outskirts of Rafah since the start of the month. Palestinian residents said Israeli drones were firing into the Yibna suburb and had opened fire overnight on the fishing boats on the beach of Rafah, causing some to catch fire. There has been no stopping of Israel's fire all night from drones, helicopters, warplanes, and tanks, said one resident of Rafah. This crisis has been absolutely horrific, and it needs to end like now. Too many innocent people have lost their lives there. Gaza aid piles up in Egypt. This is reported by Reuters. U.S. pier delivery falters. Food and medicine for Palestinians in Gaza are piling up in Egypt because the Rafah crossing remains closed and there has been no aid delivered to a UN warehouse from a U.S.-built pier for 2 days. We are running out of words to describe what is happening in Gaza. We have described it as a catastrophe, a nightmare, as hell on earth. It is all of these and worse, she said. She told the UN Security Council that the closure of the Rafah crossing from Egypt had stopped the delivery of at least 82,000 tons of supplies, while access at Israel's Karim Shalom crossing was limited due to hostilities, which we've seen many videos circulating of Israelis blocking the aid to these people. And that is also unacceptable because you're starving an entire population, and that's just wrong. I don't know what Israel thinks they're doing or the Israeli people. You have lost the support of so many, even if you were justified. And I believe you were justified to try to get back your hostages and all that. But what you have done since October 7th, you have lost the hearts and minds of many. And more people, even of Jewish heritage, are speaking out against it. Because you can't make these movies about the Holocaust and do all this stuff and have this many innocent people die. And people find the messaging to be contradictory. And I have many Jewish friends and Israeli friends, and some of them agree with what's going on. Some of them absolutely do not. I am anti-war. I lost my family in war. I do not agree with the response that has been dished out by Israel at all. It has been excessive in my opinion, and I really pray that they find humanity deep down inside of them, even if they feel justified to stop this chaos one way or another. And the world needs to step in and end this once and for all. And these two can't get along, so they need to divvy up that land. You stay on one side, you stay on the other side, and that should be the end of it. But that won't happen. That'll never happen. I pray for peace in the Middle East and for every civilian killed, whether on the Israeli side, on the Palestinian side. Anytime innocent life is lost, my heart aches and breaks because I know what it feels like to get that phone call and find out your family died just because they're a different ethnicity or religion or creed or skin color. I know what it feels like to be hated. Rest in peace to all the people my people lost during the Kosovo conflict in the late 90s. More countries recognize the Palestinian state as Israel and Hamas war rages on. More countries have announced plans to officially recognize the Palestinian state as the Israel-Hamas war drags on the civilian death toll in Gaza. Israel recalled its ambassadors from Ireland and Norway on Wednesday following their announcement that they will recognize an independent Palestinian state. 12 countries total have recognized the Palestinian state in the past decade, with 7 of those announced since April. Irish support for Palestinian rights has been among the highest in Europe. Permanent peace can only be secured upon the basis of the free will of a free people. And 140 of the UN's 193 member states submitted a letter to the General Assembly Security Council last month in support of admitting the Palestinian state to the United Nations. That's a start, but we need the violence to end first and then try to have the world force a final resolution recognized by the world governments. Video shows, this is why you always got to buckle your seatbelts, folks. I always do. When I was younger, I didn't think it was a big deal. But you never know what can happen on a flight. Those seatbelts are there for a reason. It's not just... Because a lot of us think, oh, I'm not going to wear my seatbelt because if we crash, we're dead anyway. But no, the seatbelt's really there for turbulence. And the video shows Singapore Airlines cabin in disarray after severe turbulence leaves one dead. A video has emerged showing the interior of a Singapore Airlines Boeing jet in complete disarray after it was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok this week following severe turbulence. Footage captured Tuesday shows debris strewn across the cabin and apparent blood splatter on an overhead bin. I had never had anything like this in all my years of flying. There was an immediate kind of disbelief at first, and then the plane was it felt very level, and it was obvious the gentleman who died needed some help. So I got up and helped some of the passengers get him off his seat, and we laid him on the floor near the bulkheads of the medics on the airplane. There were some passengers who thankfully were medics, could administer CPR to the gentleman on the airplane. They gave CPR for, I think, 20 minutes. That's a flight from hell, 100%. That's a flight from hell to watch somebody die there. Sounds like he must have hit his head very hard. You have to keep your seatbelt on. And I'm going to remind my family again also, wear your seatbelt. And that goes for cars too, guys. And wear your helmets if you're on scooters. I know people who have fallen off scooters and have had traumatic brain injuries. Like, it's called an accident. It's not planned. If we all knew when to put a helmet on, none of us would ever wear seatbelts on. I only need to wear a seatbelt on today. No, you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know when turbulence is going to happen. We don't control the skies and the wind. Almighty God does. And you never know when you're going to lose your life. And I bet you the guy that was on that plane never thought he was going to die on that flight. That way. He thought maybe if I'm going to die, it'll be because of a plane crash. Like, wear your seatbelts. Alaskan rivers are turning orange, guys. Look at this picture. It looks like orange soda. Dozens of rivers and streams in Alaska are turning rusty orange, a likely consequence of thawing permafrost. The Arctic is the fastest warming region in the globe. It almost looks like lava as it first comes out of a volcano. So the rusty colors are coming from iron, and these, rivers look basically toxic, and they are toxic to the wildlife there. But it's not because there was a spill. This is disturbing to us men. The Hill reports microplastics pervasive in human testicles. A new study found a pervasive presence of microplastics in humans and dog testicles. The research published last week in the Oxford Academic Journal found that out of all 47 canine and 23 human testes that were examined, all had a presence of microplastics. The findings suggest that there are potential consequences for male fertility. Microplastic fragments have yet to be studied extensively, but researchers have found they are in many body parts. We're banning plastic bags. How about plastic bottles? Let's go back to glass or wood. Okay, this is crazy. Okay, I think I'm done, guys. As of today, I will never drink bottled water ever again, if I can help it. California is getting ready to require a bill that requires new cars to beep at speeding drivers. Make this story short. Technology in our cars, if you go 10 miles above the speed limit, the car starts to tell you, slow down, and then it forces you to go below the maximum allowed. How do you feel about that? We all, I think it's dangerous. There might be times driving where you actually need to go more than 10 miles an hour to avoid a problem. I don't think it's safe. I actually think it's the opposite. I don't like that they can control our vehicles like that because you just never know what could happen or go wrong. And I don't like it. But do I think it'll be safer on the roads? Yes, I do. Speaking of safe, daily marijuana use in the U.S. is now more common than drinking alcohol. New study finds. Now, do I think the roads will be safer because there might be less drivers? Should you drive high? Never. Do I think it's safer than driving drunk? A little bit. Drunk drivers are deadly. There's no doubt about it. So there's more people smoking weed than drinking for the first time. A UPS driver was killed in Orange County. He was shot 14 times by a childhood friend. The guy stalked him. It just shows you that you never know the people you let into your life can be the ones that end your life. This poor guy was at work. He was shot with 14 bullets and killed by a childhood friend who stalked him. No one knows the details why. I would assume this guy was mentally ill. They always want to blame it on guns. I do not blame it on guns because if this person was really set on trying to hurt this guy, he would have used something else to do it. So I will never use that as justifications on why they should take away our weapons, which defends us from tyranny, overreach of government, and dictatorships, which have killed more people than anything in the history of the world. Period. Reuters reports, blood vial delivery prompts evacuation of Republican Party headquarters. Talk about being in a bloody political situation. The Republican National Committee's headquarters in Washington was briefly evacuated on Wednesday morning after a suspicious package containing 2 vials of blood was delivered to the building. So someone out there sent that and spooked the hell out of the Republican Party. I wonder who might have done that. Maybe someone on the left? A mass shooting occurred in Pennsylvania. Disgruntled employee. Guys, be vigilant out there. People lose their jobs. They get fired. Things happen. Most affairs happen on the workplace. Maybe they were sleeping with coworkers. Bottom line is this guy walked in, killed 2 of his fellow employees, hurt 3 others in Pennsylvania. And you never know what can happen in this interesting world we live in. The bird flu now has a human case in Australia. To back that up, the second case of bird flu was found in a Michigan worker. So this bird flu that they said at first doesn't really transfer to humans, conveniently seems to be spreading to human beings all over the world right before we make the biggest selection of the next leader of the free world. Seems like history may be repeating itself. The question is, how dangerous is this thing and how fast can it spread? Extraordinary device could let paralyzed people regain movements in arms and hands. A device that sends an electrical buzz through the skin could allow people who were paralyzed several decades ago to regain movement in their arms and hands. That is absolutely amazing. And as you can see, the device puts some like circular things on the back of their necks with a cord. And this is just would be amazing. I have friends that are now paralyzed. I have a friend named Eric Patrick Thomas who's paralyzed from the neck down. This would be amazing for him to be able to move his arms and legs. And I'm praying that science will figure a way to restore those that have been disabled. Back to marijuana. High potency cannabis linked to dramatically higher risk of psychotic episodes. Consuming higher potency cannabis between the ages of 16 and 18 doubles the likelihood of a psychotic experience between the age of 19 and 24 compared with lower potency cannabis, according to a new study of 1,560 UK adults. With cannabis potency tendency, with cannabis use going up, the health of young adults may be at risk. Young people using higher potency forms of cannabis are twice likely to have experiences associated with psychosis. So just because you think a little weed doesn't hurt no one, think again. You could have a psychotic episode and not even know what you did. Scientists sound the alarm on drinking tap water when pregnant. They're starting to see that fluoride may be affecting babies in the womb. So if you have an expecting wife or friend or family member, give them the heads up. We live in an interesting world during interesting times. This is your boy Beck Lover. Thank you for tuning into this short episode. Make sure you check out my episode appearance on the In Godfree We Trust podcast this Saturday dropping. Stay tuned. Check out all my interviews, all my previous content. Follow me on Instagram. There's so much going on, so many things that are happening around the world. And I thank you for choosing me to be your voice. This is Beck Lover, and you're watching